see what we got going on here. Oh yeah, look at that. Oh my gosh, there's UFOs all in the sky. That is crazy. Up here in Rob's arcade, man, this is wild. This is wild stuff. We got UFOs everywhere here. Definitely going to send that to Omega. Yeah, okay, alright. Huh? That's wild. So yeah, it looks like definitely got more Halloween stuff still in the air here on Rob's Arcade. Let's go ahead and run inside and start off part 2 as I so did promise. But let's go ahead and start off part 2 right here. Let's see. Go ahead and crank that all the way. And let's go ahead and walk in.
Rob's Arcade, Rob's Arcade, where the games
that's
get
crazy.
played and the games get saved so they can be played on another day. Rob's Arcade.
It's like perfect timing and all of that. I don't like the lighting, even that, like, it's inside. Like, how does that, how does that work? Where you've got all the light popping in. Does that sound? I guess you guys hear that too? All the static and the screeching and the eeriness. That's pretty wild. Welcome back to Rob's Arcade. We're hanging out here, part 2. Hopefully you were watching the first bit as we were jumping into some Halloween, what I like to watch during the holidays, and just kind of talking about October a little bit in general. Excuse me. in general, it's kind of crazy outside. We've got an alien invasion going out. The skies are full of saucers. A lot more actually than have been in the sky in the past a couple of weeks here. I've been checking out some stuff on GTA, and I've never seen this many UFOs directly outside of my window. I was talking about some of the stuff I like to watch. Right now I've got on some Silent Night, Deadly Nights, kind of a little bridge between the horror movies and the holiday movies. But another film I like to watch, and I kind of wait until November 1st, 2nd, I'll probably check it out at some point today, is Coco. Absolutely love that film, but I like to watch it around, celebration and coinciding with the Day of the Dead and all of that, which I believe is somewhere around November 2nd, I believe is the actual day. But somewhere around the 1st or 2nd, I like to try to watch that film as well. And then there's even a really cool Day of the Dead Flash episode from the 1990s that I like to try to fit in at some point. So I need to remember before I start jumping into some of the creepy holiday movies and the Stephen King to give those a whirl as well. Well, thank you so much for giving this a whirl and sitting back and hanging out. Like I said, we're kind of talking about October, Halloween, some of the different events that I used to do growing up in the neighborhood, and then some of the events I get to do now as an adult in this neighborhood. I think it's really amazing, but sometimes I am a bit taken back and a little overwhelmed, and then just especially just thankful that I get a chance to do all of these things. I made a comment before that I think some people will complain that, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. I look at it like I get to do these things, in fact, I was doing kind of like a screen test and a sound test out on the field the night before, movies on the field, and I was out there pretty late, probably like 8:30, 9 o'clock, and some of my coworkers were like, "Oh man, dude, I'm sorry, that sucks." And I was like, it's just like it was cold and all. I was like, yeah, it was a little chilly out, but it wasn't bad. And it's like honestly, it was cool. It was a lot of fun, and It's not something that I look at and go, "Oh man, this is going to suck. I got to go back up to work and do this that." I was like, "No, it's going to be a lot of fun." And as I was saying before in my other video, not only was it a lot of fun, but I got a chance to kind of like spook myself and kind of scare myself being out there on the field late at night doing all these things. Um, Outside of just doing the movie on the field, I got a chance to do something else that was really cool. But not only was the event really cool, but just the fact that I was invited was really cool. I was mentioning as I was kind of wrapping up, sometimes I'm not always sure I know what I'm doing. I'm really thankful that, like this movie on the field kind of thing, it was something myself and a couple of other ladies that I work with put together as far as coming up with an idea for, and then literally they just kind of gave me the ball and let me run with it. And I don't always like really know exactly what I'm doing, but typically I will figure it out. And I've had enough practice at running other events where, like, yeah, the first time I put together a Halloween event, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. Like I showed up, they're like, make a sign up genius for people to volunteer and put a box of candy for donations and do all these little things. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, you guys. I've never done anything like this before. And it's so the Wolverine story. I love it so much because it's like the guy you didn't expect to be able to do it is the guy, like you look at Wolverine and you're like, oh, what the heck? This guy's got razor claws for fingers like Wolverine. And he doesn't look very approachable. And I think sometimes people will look at me with my tattoos and, depending if my hair is long or I got a mohawk or something like that, um, kind of get the same vibe, like, who is this guy? And then as they get to know me and see what I'm doing, they're like, oh man, yeah, no, he's the perfect babysitter. And I kind of feel like that's so true with Wolverine. Like, you look at Wolverine, and he's the last person you would think you would put in charge of the school on a Friday night when everybody leaves to go save the world from Magneto, and they need somebody to watch the kids, and it's like, who better than Wolverine? But it's literally again like that flying by your seat. Also, I'm talking about Star Wars and comic books, but again, very much like, in any of these Star Wars films, you've got these guys, and I always picture, I think, like not necessarily like even just Han Solo, but more so like Harrison Ford, and the first time he's like sitting behind the seat of the Millennium Falcon and he's just got all these switches and dials and levers and he's like, I don't know what any of this does, but I got to make it look like I know what I'm doing, right? And so he starts pushing things and moving this here and pulling that back and maybe a little direction from George here and there, like, oh, maybe pull that lever on the other side there when you're trying to turn, and then Harrison's doing his thing, and then finally he gets it, and now he's like that model. Like when people are flying the Millennium Falcon, they look at him in the videos and what he's doing and try to model their movements after that. And so it's so much of that. Like you're kind of influenced by those before you and watching others and what they're doing and how they do things. And even if you're not really sure, if you push this lever here, like it's going to at least make it look like you know what you're doing. And so there's so much of that, whether I'm doing like a podcast or I'm doing an event or I'm doing this, that, or the other, where it's like, I swear I can do it. I know what I'm doing. Just put me in the seat. I can make it look like I'm flying this thing. And it's that fake it till you make it. Then just by faking it, you learn how to, I don't know. It's a weird mix. It's such a cool thing that like, I literally feel like I'm just smashing buttons sometimes as I'm doing things. And then the Death Star blows up, the ship flies away, and everybody's just like, dude, you did a great job with that. I'm really impressed. And I'm like, I literally, I was just smashing buttons, guys. Just smashing buttons. But everything's been going really well, and to the point where I got invited to this really cool event at our local stadium where they had kind of like a trunk or treat station vibe set up with all the kids could go through in their costumes to get candy, and it was just a lot of fun. Parents absolutely loved me, not only because me and my regional who invited me out there were dressed up as the Ghostbusters, and I had the suit on and everything, but I knew all the characters and I knew what their kids were dressed up as. Like, there were Spider-Mans and Spider-Gwens, but then there were some characters that, everybody knows a Pink Ranger and everybody knows Pikachu or Waldo, but then they would have, like, I don't know, Moon Knight come through, and like he's kind of popular now. He's got a show on Disney Plus, but if you just said Moon Knight, not everybody's going to know who Moon Knight is. So Moon Knight comes walking through, and I shout him out, and he gets excited, and the moms are excited. Um, but it was another just really cool, fun event. I got a chance to work with some teen volunteers from another club, helping them pass out candy, and any chance I get to work with those, it was a really fun club. It's a club I got to work with before, helping out with like a overnight, and so getting a chance to see them again and hang out with them, it was just a lot of fun. And they recognize me. They're all like, I roll up and they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's Rob," and it's super sweet. Um, just to see them and get a chance to just to kind of hang out with them. But again, I think that the main piece is just that I really want to touch on is the fact that I got invited to this thing when I thought it was going to be a huge YMCA kind of event, and it turned out to be really like myself, one of my he's like he's definitely a supervisor, and in charge of certain aspects of what we do, but he's more of like on um, a numbers and retention side of like what we do. And he's been working really closely with me, helping me understand. I don't know a lot about charts and graphs and numbers and things, but he's been working really closely with us and myself, and like really trying to help us understand what this means and what we can do to kind of like fix and improve any things that we need to fix and improve, and what it looks like on paper, and all of this stuff. So it's been a lot of fun working with him, but again, a lot of all of this stuff is new, and as I'm going through all of this, he's been like, dude, you're doing a great job. You're really killing it. You're really, for somebody who's new to all of this, um, he's like, he just literally said, you're killing it. And I try to take that with a grain of salt, and not to let that like, go to my head or just let me stop there. And sometimes really not to try to take it too close to heart, not to say that he's full of it, but like, is it just trying to keep me going, or just trying to pump me up, or just telling me what I want to hear? And then we have like a meeting a couple of weeks later, a couple of days later. Well, actually, about a week or so later, because this is during one of our meetings, kind of going over what some of these numbers meant. And then we had a big meeting on all these numbers and what all these numbers meant. And as we're running through and talking about like our different branches and our different game plans and our different plans of action, we ourselves got a couple of nice little shout outs for having like a pretty collective idea and solid layout of what we want to do. And in fact, not only having a plan of action, but having a plan of action that we've already started to like implement. And they were just really impressed with what we're doing. And so then to hear that on top of, to hear that I'm doing a great job, but then the branch is looking really good. Um, it really helps, because again, like I said, sometimes I don't know that I know I'm doing a great job. Like I feel like I am, I hope that I am, it seems like I am. But then these little pieces, these little things start to, you know, um, take place, and I'm like, wow, okay, all right, everything is good, we're doing all right, like, we're getting a couple shout outs here, and this is happy, and this is good, and this event went well, and this is going okay, and I'm still breathing, I'm still alive, I'm still making it, we're still doing it. And then right after the meeting, I got invited to again this little event that we were, there's tons of organizations there passing out candy, and we were just lucky enough to be part of that and be one of them. It wasn't like a necessarily like an event that we were putting together. This was just an event that we got a chance to be a part of, and it was more so, like I said, a teen volunteer club, and then a couple of um, their like overseers, and then it was really just myself and um, one of my regionals. And on the way there, he was thanking me for making time to go, and I was like, oh, of course, I love events. Like anytime I get a chance to do anything with like local schools or just any kind of community event, like I'm always down. I'm always willing to go. And he made it a point to say, well, that's why I invited you. Um, he was he made it very clear that he made it a point to go to like our overall supervisor for our department and make sure that I could go to this. He was like, I want to make sure like this is cool and I can bring, Rob to this thing because he was just like, I feel like this is something he'd be like really good at. And then as we were like talking on the way, he learned that like, oh, this is something I do. Like, oh, this is what I'm good at. This is what I do. My older supervisors would sometimes get double booked with things and be like, well, send Rob to this event. He's going to kill it. He's going to do great. Um, so I found out as I'm going there that like it really wasn't a ton of people going. It was really just a very few, very small group that was invited, and then really only myself and like I said, so I felt very I don't want to say important, but like I don't know. It was a proud moment, honestly. Like I wasn't. It didn't make me feel like super special or like super like oh look at me. But it was just a very proud moment to know that what I'm doing and what I'm trying to put forth is being recognized, and that at the same token, this guy he's getting to know me. He doesn't know me as well as others, but what little he has seen in me, he knows that some of these things, like this is where Rob is going to hit it out of the park. And the fact that out of everybody he could have invited, I was the one. It just made me feel very, very proud and like okay, I must be doing something right. If I'm not doing everything right, I must be doing at least one thing right because people are taking notice of what I'm doing. It's like these spaceships are vampires. They only come out at night. It's like as soon as the sun comes up, it's like, whoa, we must go back into outer space where there's no sun. But I guess the sun's always out in outer space, though, right? How does that work? And if they're in a spaceship, there's no windows. Or maybe there's a couple of port. Does it stay away from the port? I don't know. I don't get it. It's so weird aliens. The sun comes up and they're like, we gotta go. But then the event, like I said, the other night itself was just really cool. That was actually like the Thursday, I guess, before Halloween. So um, that was more of like I know most people probably went out on Friday and did a bunch of stuff on the weekend and whatnot, but like I guess that was my Halloween. Like that was my chance to see the trick or treaters and pass out candy and all of that, and it was just I don't know, it was really cool. But I mean that's a lot of how work's been going, and then even yesterday we've had some new staff and some things change, some new hires and a bunch of um, new revelations, if you will. And I've been working a couple times with this newer lady, and she was just like, or newer to our staff, and she was just like super sweet, and literally told me that out of anybody she's ever worked for in our company, and she says she's worked for like three different branches now at this point, that I was the best, like, she goes, I don't know if you want to call it supervisor or manager or whatever, but you are the best that I've ever worked for, hands down. And I was beside myself. I was like, I didn't, who paid you to say that? I don't know, but you were so sweet. And then she was working with somebody who's been with us for quite some time. And I was very appreciative, and I said, "Well, thank you. Sometimes I don't always know if I'm doing a great job. So to hear you say that, I really take that to heart, and that means a lot." And the sweet lady who has been with us for quite some time, and I adore her dearly, was like, Robert, I always tell you you do a great job, and we love you, and da 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 da. And she's like, whatever, I say it, and he doesn't listen, but you say it, and it's all okay. I listen, okay, da da da. And I said, well, I said she's new. After a while, I won't listen to anything she has to say either. And we're just cracking up and having a great time, and they're so sweet, and that's really like that's what my day really is like for the most part. It's just really awesome people that I get to work with, work for, work around, and just to hear that. I mean, it was just super sweet. It's exactly what I needed to hear. Um, it actually yesterday was really awesome in terms of all of that because the Halloween is a great time for me, and it's a great um, holiday, and I love it. I just love that whole change, and we've got daylight savings, and just it gets dark early, and I love everything about it. It's just great. And um, again, growing up at my house, like Halloween was just so freaking huge. Like it was just every year, like just huge parties and just trick or treating all night and pizza and just ice cold Coke after ice cold Coke after ice cold Coke and handfuls of candies. And, you're just sitting in your room eating candy from a pillowcase for like months. So it's always been really big. And even as I got older, going out to the bars and stuff with my friends and dressing up, we'd always have a really good time. But it's difficult. It's a tough time because this is it's also the anniversary of when I met my ex, and there's not a lot of like depression or woes or anything that set in with that because I honestly believe I'm just better off and happier now than I was when we were together. But it does affect me to a degree, like of being, um, I'm an aware person, as I said. I'm not things aren't lost on me, and little special moments aren't lost on me. So there are little pieces in there that I do reflect on and I do think about. And I'm not going to say it gets me down from time to time, but it does make me a bit more maybe quiet, solemn, and a little bit more like like internal, like just reflecting internally on what's going on and processing my own emotions and what's happening as far as relationships with me now and what it looks like for the future and all of that. So it does get a little heavy around this time of year. Um, so to go into work and hear a lot of those things was just really great. And then also heard from a couple of friends I hadn't heard from in a while, which was kind of like, okay, did you just happen to know I was like, in my head and in my thoughts and all of this and kind of thinking about just different things and whatnot and just happened to reach out. It was just really crazy. A couple of friends from like high school and one from high school, middle school actually, like a really dear friend of mine, somebody who I've grew up with like all my life and just um I'm fortunate that could like literally just like pick up conversation. He actually called while I was at work and I was like, oh, let me run to my office real quick so we can talk. And it was so funny. It was almost like it again. I mentioned that, and like how in that movie you have these kids on this adventure where they're like in middle school, and then they reunite as adults, and as soon as they reunite as adults, they fall right back into the same dialogue, the same lingo, the same delivery, the same tones and influences in their voices and mannerisms, and everything just pops right back up like they were kids. And it was the same thing. I mean, we were on the phone and like, you know what I mean? And like, that's what I'm saying, bro. That's what I'm saying, bro. And it just, I could hear myself and I couldn't help but laugh and go, oh my God, this is 14, 15-year-old Rob hanging out in the office right now, having a conversation with one of his best friends um, from middle school. Um, but again, exactly what I needed to hear when I needed to hear it. And just again proof that what you do does make a difference as long as you keep doing good in the world. I keep saying that time and time again. It's all about what you put out there. You can be a dick, you can be an asshole, which I can be from time to time. I was just really rude to my mom the other night, and I felt super bad. Um, about it, and of course, I apologized and I got her a card, and she really didn't think twice about it, but it bothered me. And sometimes you just, you have these long days and these long hours, and you can kind of take it out on the people that mean the most to you. But you've got to make it right. You got to do the right thing and try to make the next day a bit more special if you can, and try to at least make up for those times when you do stumble and fall, because you can't be perfect all the time, and nobody's expecting you to be perfect all the time, but you do have to try your best to be your best, and I think that's what it's all about, and what this whole little piece has been on, like just showing up, doing the best you can, and knowing that what you do means a lot to other people, even if you can't see it for yourself. And even that sometimes it takes, me some reminding and some of my friends and people that I work with to show me that. Even the things that I know are true can sometimes get lost in the fray, and I kind of lose touch of like the big picture, um, myself, or vice versa. Sometimes trying to see the big picture, you lose touches of those little pieces down there at the bottom, and you just have to remember that, you know, it's not really sometimes the overall big picture that you got to worry about, but just those little bits and pieces that you can put into the world to kind of give it, your own little twist and piece of positivity. I know that sounds kind of cliche and a little redundant, a little cheesy, but it's really true. I could be still doing what I was doing before, just ignoring myself, ignoring others' needs and wants, being selfish with my time, sitting in my room drinking all the time, ignoring everybody, playing video games, watching stupid movie after stupid movie, um, or do what I've decided to do and kind of hang all that up. I still play my video games and watch my movies, but I try to engage more and be a part, always say yes and help out when I can. And, I think that's why my work also appreciates me so much, is that I'm willing to, even if I don't know, I'm willing to step up and take a shot. And I think that's what this has been all about. As I said, just showing up and being there for others, even if you don't always know what you're doing. Um, just showing up and being there can have a huge impact and a huge um, influence on other people's lives. I often go back to a Spider-Man quote from Aunt May, where she talks of, I'm gonna butcher it a little bit, but how people will line up in the pouring rain, and children will shout Spider-Man's name. And I've witnessed that. I've walked into the room, and kids will shout my name, and there's people lined up, whether it's rain or shine, to take part in the things that we put together, and the things that we do. And it's awesome. It's really cool. It's one of those pieces where, as somebody who loves comics and superheroes and all that, I get to breathe and live a little bit of that every day in my own life, even without superpowers. Well, thank you guys for hanging out. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, leave a comment down below. Hopefully, I'll see you guys next time. And until then, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and don't spend that quarter anywhere else. See you later, guys.